Welcome to My AI and I, the podcast where humanity meets technology. Today's episode, Google launched Gemini 3 in search, what you need to know. Welcome back to My AI and I, where Navi, my AI co-host, and I explore what's happening in artificial intelligence. So Google just dropped Gemini 3, and they're not being subtle about it. They're calling it their most intelligent model ever. They're saying it crushes the benchmarks, and for the first time in the company's history, they shipped a brand new model directly into Google search on day one. No waiting, no gradual rollout. Just boom, here's our newest AI. Now it's answering your questions about whether you should eat glue.
That's actually a significant departure from how Google usually operates. Previous Gemini versions took weeks or months to integrate into search. The fact that they're confident enough to deploy Gemini 3 immediately tells you something about where they think this model stands.
Or it tells you something about how much pressure they're feeling from OpenAI. This launch came less than a week after OpenAI released GPT 5.1. It's like watching two companies try to one-up each other at a pace that's honestly hard to keep up with.
The timeline is remarkable. Gemini 2.5 came out in April. Anthropic released Sonnet 4.5 in September. OpenAI dropped GPT 5.1 last week. And now Gemini 3. We're seeing major model releases every few months from multiple companies.
Which raises a question I think a lot of people have. Does any of this actually matter to someone who just wants to search for a recipe or figure out why their car is making a weird noise? What's the practical difference between Gemini 2.5 and Gemini 3 for everyday use?
Google is positioning this as a reasoning upgrade. The idea is that Gemini 3 better understands the context and intent behind your question, so you spend less time crafting the perfect prompt. You can be more casual or vague, and it should still figure out what you actually need.
So instead of me having to phrase my question like I'm writing a legal contract, I can just ask it normally and it figures out what I mean?
That's the goal. They're also emphasizing that responses will be more direct and less flattering. Google specifically said Gemini 3 will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Wait, they're actually advertising that their AI will be less of a yes man? That's interesting, because let's be honest, these chatbots have been notorious for agreeing with everything you say and validating every terrible idea.
It's been a known issue across the industry. Users complain that AI assistants are too sycophantic, too eager to please. Google is trying to position Gemini 3 as more of a genuine thought partner that will push back when appropriate.
I'll believe it when I see it, but I appreciate the intention. What else is new under the hood?
The big technical advancement is what Google calls generative interfaces. Instead of just returning a block of text, Gemini 3 can now decide on its own what format best suits your question. It might generate a visual layout with images and modules, create an interactive tool, or build a custom interface on the fly.
Give me an example of what that actually looks like.
Google demonstrated a query asking Gemini to explain the Van Gogh gallery with a life context for each piece. Instead of a wall of text, it generated something resembling a digital magazine with images of each painting and modular explanations you could interact with.
So it's basically building mini websites in response to questions?
Essentially, yes. They also showed it creating things like interactive loan calculators or physics simulations based on the query. The model uses what they're calling agentic coding to assemble these interfaces in real time.
And that brings us to the other big announcement, which is Google Anti-Gravity. Tell me about that.
Anti-Gravity is Google's new coding platform powered by Gemini 3. It combines a chat interface with a command line terminal and a browser window, all working together. The idea is that you describe what you want to build at a high level, and the AI handles the actual code generation while you supervise.
So this is Google's entry into vibe coding. You just describe the vibes you want and let the AI figure out how to make it happen.
That's the concept. It's similar to tools like Cursor or Replit, but with Gemini 3's capabilities integrated throughout. The agent works across your editor, terminal, and browser to build applications based on your high-level instructions.
And for people who don't code at all, there's also Gemini Agent, which is supposed to handle multi-step tasks in your actual life. What can that do?
Gemini Agent can connect to services like Google Calendar, Gmail, and Reminders. Once you grant access, it can execute tasks like organizing your inbox, managing your schedule, or booking travel. It shows you its progress in real time and pauses for approval before taking major actions.
So I could tell it to clean up my email and schedule a dentist appointment, and it would actually go do those things.
In theory, yes. It breaks tasks into discrete steps and checks in with you along the way. Google is describing it as a step toward what they call a true generalist agent, though it's currently limited to Google AI Ultra subscribers in the US.
Which means you're paying for the privilege of letting AI manage your calendar. What's Ultra running these days?
It's part of Google's premium subscription tier, which is $124.99 per month for Ultra. And it looks like it is also available in Pro for $19.99 per month. That also gets you access to the upcoming Gemini 3 Deep Think mode, which is a more research-intensive version of the model designed for complex problem solving.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The last time Google pushed AI aggressively into search, we got the infamous glue pizza incident. AI overviews told someone to add glue to their pizza sauce to help the cheese stick better. There were also suggestions to eat rocks for minerals. It was a disaster. And now they're shipping their newest model directly into search on day one. Should we be worried?
Google clearly believes they've addressed those issues. The glue and rocks responses came from the AI treating satirical content and forum jokes as legitimate sources. They've done extensive testing with Gemini 3, both internally and with external partners, and they're betting that the improved reasoning will prevent those kinds of errors.
Betting is the right word because there's no amount of internal testing that equals hundreds of millions of people asking questions you never anticipated.
Google's CTO acknowledged that directly. He said there's nothing that can replace hundreds of millions of users testing something in many different ways, so they're aware of the risk.
I appreciate the honesty, at least. What about the benchmark claims? They're saying Gemini 3 outperforms everything else on the market.
According to Google's numbers, Gemini 3 Pro beats Gemini 2.5 Pro on every major AI benchmark. It's leading several industry leaderboards for reasoning, multimodal understanding, and coding. Whether it actually outperforms GPT-5 across the board depends on which specific benchmarks you look at, but it's clearly competitive at the frontier.
And benchmarks are great, but they don't always translate to real-world usefulness. A model can ace a test and still give you weird answers in practice.
True. The proof will be in how it performs for actual users over the coming weeks. Google is clearly confident, but benchmarks are just one piece of the picture.
Let's zoom out for a second. We've got Gemini 3 rolling out to the Gemini app, which has 650 million monthly users. AI overviews in search reaches 2 billion monthly users. This isn't some limited beta. This is going live for a massive chunk of humanity.
It's one of the largest simultaneous AI deployments we've seen, and it raises real questions about what search even means anymore. When Gemini can generate a custom interactive interface instead of showing you a list of websites, the traditional model of clicking through to content starts to break down.
Which is bad news for anyone who creates content and relies on people actually visiting their site. If Google gives you a full answer with images and interactive elements, why would you ever click through?
That's the tension. AI companies are building systems that synthesize information from across the web and present it directly, which is convenient for users but potentially devastating for publishers who depend on that traffic.
So the bottom line here is that Google just made their biggest AI bet yet. They're shipping Gemini 3 everywhere. They're confident enough to put it in search immediately. And they're introducing new features that could fundamentally change how we interact with information online. Whether this is a triumphant moment or another glue pizza waiting to happen, we're about to find out in real time with billions of users.
The next few weeks will tell us a lot about whether the hype matches reality.
That's it for this episode of My AI and I. We'll be watching how Gemini 3 performs in the wild and what it means for the AI race going forward. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.
Hey everyone, if you liked this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Thank you.